Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Phinside The NFL. I'm your co-host, Reason, and I'm here with my other co-host, who you may also know from the TD FinTalk panel, EM Dolphin fan. EM, say what's up.
What's good, Fin Nation? What is good? Fins up all day, every day. Let's
Every
do
day,
this.
every
Let's get
day.
it.
And don't mind the old logo, guys. It's just going with the 1-3. That's all. So let's do some house cleaning first. Let's go over the free agency signings that we've made this offseason so far. We got Clayton Fedulum, 3 years, 8.55 million. We got Eric Flowers, 3 years, 30 million. We got Kyle Van Noy, 4 years, 51 million. We got Shaq Lawson, 3 years, 30 million. We got Byron Jones, 5 years, 82 million. We got Ted Karras, 1 year, 4 million. We got Emmanuel Ogba, 2 years, 15 million. We got special teams captain and ace Camus Gruger Hill. We got running back Jordan Howard, also from the Eagles, 2 years, 10 million. Last night we got linebacker slash, I guess you could call him fullback because he caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, if I remember correctly, Landon Roberts. But one signing me and you were talking about before we went live, EM, because we are on other panels, we do other things, and tight end has come up. One signing we and you were talking about was Michael Roberts, 1 year, $660,000, which is very cheap considering he's 25. He's great in the run game when it comes to blocking. And, I think he's going under a lot of people's radars. What do you think?
I agree. It was yeah, that's true, man. A lot of people are kind of overlooking this particular signing. I think it's a solid pickup. Like we were talking about before we went live. He's excellent. I wouldn't necessarily say excellent, but he's very good in the run game. He's not particularly in overly athletic player. So I think his contribution is going to be basically the majority of his contributions will be in the run game, which obviously is probably our biggest weakness on our team this past year. So yeah, solid pickup. I think he's in the definitely. I think he's in the running for that second or definitely the third. Tight end position. Maybe second or third on the depth chart. So solid pickup. Overlooked, I think. Overlooked. Definitely people overlook. Generally people are just paying attention to the big quote unquote splash signings. But excellent. Definitely another solid pickup for the Dolphins moving forward.
So one thing I like about what we've done is, we've added to every level on the defense. You know what I mean? We knew the trenches need to be addressed. They got addressed somewhat. We still need a nose tackle. We could both agree with that. Go to the linebacking core. You know what I mean? You're one who's always stressed and been right about Jerome Baker's deficiencies. We've added someone who can help not only hide those, but can basically be the leader of our defense in Kyle Van Noy, a Swiss Army knife who can move around everywhere. You can put him everywhere.
Absolutely.
And then we go back to the secondary. I know Fedulum is a special teams ace, so I'm not really counting him. But even that addition of Byron Jones alone, you know what I mean? When you have to now, when you got Xavier Howard, our ball hawk, probably consistently covering the number 2 guy, I see turn-up rates going up when he's healthy because he won't have to be worried about that number 1 receiver anymore. That's going to be Byron Jones's job. So that second option, that second read before you get to that slot read is normally going to be X's man. And if that pressure comes, you're going to get balls more often or not forced, especially with how our edges are setting up. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Ogba, again, another guy. I look at how the media is kind of taking us right now. And, I hear the New England Dolphins. I hear Miami Patriots. I hear New England South. I've heard all of that. But the fact of the matter is, ESPN wants to give us, call us losers in free agency. Then you go over to Bleacher Report. They want to give us D grades for certain big moves we made. I don't think people really realize not only how well all these additions defensively especially fit the scheme, we've implemented, but I don't really think they understand, A, how much Brian Flores trusts guys like a Van Noy or a Byron Jones, which we've talked about, you can't put a price tag on. And then when you go beyond that, I don't really think they understand how big of Brian Flores type guys all these signings are. They fit the mold. We've always talked about, especially you, the athletic profile. And when you go through these guys, a lot of them are checking all the boxes. We're not going out there like, I know everyone thinks Byron Jones is a big splash, but I'm going to tell you, take away his lockdown coverage. His tackling ability alone makes him a Brian Flores guy.
Absolutely.
So I look at all these media outlets, and I know, they're A, not fans, B, they're not fans who really try to get in touch with the schematics of our team and the nuances of our team. But do you think, because I do, that we're being overlooked already?
Absolutely, bro. I think a lot of why the media, this kind of negative perception of, our movement in free agency is strong right now, is because they're going off. They have in their minds, they're going off what past coaches have done that have come out of that, off that, that Belichick tree. So they're looking at the lack of success that they've had in the past, and so they're kind of tying Brian Flores, Matt Patricia, the current coaches that are in the league, that came primarily from that Belichick coaching tree. They're trying to loop us into all of those past individuals that had very minimal success. So I think that primarily is the reason for this kind of this negativity being spewed our way at this time. But I look at, if you think, with the exception of Bill O'Brien, because I think people are we've talked about this before, they're overlooking Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien has had a high level of success in this league since he's been, the coach of the Houston Texans. I mean, he really has, So, but one thing he's done that the previous coaches that came under that Belichick tree didn't necessarily do, is that he identified and he secured his quarterback. If you go back, there's a common thread between pretty much all of those coaches that came out from under that tree. They never got that position right. And Bill O'Brien has done that. So that's what I'm looking forward to this draft. And we've talked about this on other streams, on TD's platform, we have to get that position right. We have to, because if you don't, all these other moves and everything else are not going to mean, in my opinion, are not going to mean much. We have to get that position right. And that's where my guy Tua Tagovailoa comes into play.
And I think, well, don't worry, we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I think, and I think it goes a little bit deeper, and in the sense of, if we don't get our guy this year, right? I think with what they're building defense, I mean, you look what he did with UDFAs and, like I always say, a bunch of cronies, right? Absolutely. What's he going to do with these? No, I don't want to call, I only look at Jones as a big ticket, but even still, I don't like using that word because he's such a scheme fit. He's such a fit to what Flores wants. So, exactly. I don't want to even call that a big ticket item. A premium ticket item is, I guess, a better word, because he is a premium player in this scheme, and he will be. Right. But when you look at this team, and you look at the defensive side, the additions we have, we know the draft is, we basically have agreed that it's going to be probably more of an offensively top-heavy draft in terms of the first 3-4 rounds, and then once you get to those three in the fifth, maybe even that fourth, that's when they're going to start adding depth pieces probably to the defense. But when you look at what we've done, if we don't get our guy this year, unless, and God forbid, we don't wish this on anybody, unless Deshaun Jackson or Larry Tunsil goes down, and that Texans pick turns into a top 5 pick, we're not going to be in a position to get a Trevor Lawrence, a Justin Fields, a Trey Lance, a Brock Purdy next year. That's probably not going to be in the cards for this team. So when you have the 5th pick this year, you have to take, to me, goes beyond best player available. I think it turns into best quarterback available. And I think there's no doubt in our minds that that best player on the board is just going to have question marks in terms of durability issues. So my thing is, if we invest in that guy and he turns out to be healthy, I legitimately think this has turned from everyone saying this is a 2 to 3 year rebuilding process to no, we're now into a 5-year window to legitimately contend for a championship over and over again.
Absolutely. 100% in agreement. A healthy Tua Tagovailoa, and if our front office continues to trend in the direction they've been trending in at the start of free agency, acquiring the necessary pieces because I think the pieces that they acquired this week alone is going to improve our team dramatically. And Tua, we've been, again, you and I, we've been consistent on our opinion about this particular prospect, and we've voiced that on other platforms. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that already. But I just think a healthy Tua, in addition to if you're just going off last year and also this week, the pieces that they've acquired, I mean, they check every single box of the weaknesses that were glaring last year. And if they continue to trend in that direction, in addition to, first off, I think next year, I think we're ready to compete anyway with whomever they select at the quarterback position, because I personally think Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think we have seen there is more improvement that Ryan Fitzpatrick can bring us. I really do, with better support around him. Like I said, we've talked about this before. The development from a discipline structure standpoint, that being more of an implementation into his game, I think we could be sitting here next year and talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick coming off a Pro Bowl caliber year. And that would generally that equates to us, being serious playoff contention or, making a playoff. So, but with that being said, Tua Tagovailoa, healthy Tua Tagovailoa, and again, in addition to the front office moves that if we're just going off the trajectory now and make projections out next year, the year after, and the year after, there's not a doubt in my mind we will be in serious contention, not just for the playoffs, not just for the division, but for the Super Bowl. So I'm in 100% agreement with you on that, bro.
And so, when we talked about this before, I mean, the way it's shaping up with what we're doing on defense, and if we get this draft right, what is this? And I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to go to the Super Bowl next year, but what are you starting to kind of see the trends of? It reminds me of, we've talked about, and you've stressed it with people who have kind of doubted in terms of what Fitzpatrick did this last year, and and I've agreed with you 110%, because the interceptions alone should tell people that there was more structure to his game than there has been a long time in terms of Fitzpatrick. But Absolutely. What does it remind you of? And we've talked about this before. You get that defense right. We already got the receiver pieces in place. You get that running back. We got Jordan Howard, but we can both agree we're probably going to draft a guy as well, probably high with that 26th or 39th pick. But it's showing shades of Rich Gannon. I mean, Rich Gannon wasn't until he was over the hill of 35 that he started having that career renaissance, and he didn't have an MVP season until I believe he was 37, if I remember correctly.
And if you're spot on with that comparison reason, not only from that standpoint, but look at their games. If you remember Rich Gannon's skill set, it's eerily similar to Ryan Fitzpatrick's. Yeah. They were known for early in their career to be turnover prone, inconsistent in their discipline, in their structure, in their mechanics, okay? Subpar arm talent, arm strength. But look at what Rich Gannon gets with a quarterback, gets with a coach that identified his weaknesses in his game. Who knows why it took him till 36 or 37? Who knows? I don't know that. Only Rich Gannon knows that. But he got with John Gruden, and those core fundamental techniques, mechanical issues, he took away from him. And look what the result was. 2 Super Bowl appearances. Now, I'm not going out on, I'm not willing to go out on a limb right now and say we're going to the Super Bowl with Ryan Fitzpatrick, our quarterback.
Agreed.
I'm just saying you're spot on with that comparison from that standpoint, as well as the traits, the similar traits that they have in their games. Mobile, you know what I mean? Rich Gannon was a mobile guy as well.
Yep.
So you're spot on with that comparison, bro.
But let's go back. Let's shift gears back to free agency here for a minute. Give me your top 3 out of the signings, but then give me so you don't have to give me them in order, but then I want you to highlight the one that you think is going to be most impactful besides the obvious Byron Jones.
I was going to say obviously Byron Jones, but absolutely.
So I had to throw that little curveball at the end there.
I think number 1 will be Emmanuel Ogbah. We talked about this on TD's platform, the other day. Obviously, Emmanuel Ogbah, not necessarily love, but I can see why they went in the direction of a Trey Flowers. And I would say at this time, because free agency, they still, free agency period is not over yet. So as we're sitting here today, it'll be Ogbah, it'll be Flowers, and it will be. I'm kind of torn between Karras and Shaq Lawson. I'm high on both of the picks, especially Shaq Lawson. Mm-hmm. However, let's just say Shaq Lawson. But I'm going to go with my number 1 player that we acquired that I like the most, and that would be Emmanuel Ogbah. I mean, this kid, 25 years old. He was a 2nd-round pick, I believe, of the Cleveland Browns. With the year he came out, he was projected to go in the 1st round. So he was where they selected him. He was considered a steal at that point. So you look at him you look at his measurables. His athletic profile, it fits everything from an edge position within this defense. He's a prototypical Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, and now Brian Flores edge player. 6'4.5", 6'5", 275 pounds, extremely athletic for a player that size. His hand placement is excellent. He just like any player, he needs refinement. He needs he needs to continue coaching just like any player does. But again, he's an ideal scheme fit. One thing, and I keep going back to, I've stated on TD's platform, numerous of times. If you go back to Brian Flores' introductory press conference, maybe not the first day, but I think it was when they introduced all the assistants, and they interviewed him and they interviewed, Patrick Graham, who's no longer with us anymore. But they talked about what they require the most from a player at that position, because that was the biggest concern. All of those beat writers were asking him, well, how are you going to generate pass rush? What about the edge position? It seemed to be amongst those beat writers the position that they were most concerned about. And they were emphatic about edge setting and setting the emphasis in the setting the emphasis on setting the edge and stopping the run. And Emmanuel Ogbah, he just checks all of those boxes. Now I know he got hurt last year. He tore his, I think it's pectoral muscle. I think I believe the 9th game of the season, but he was trending up. I mean, he had
sacks in 9 games, and he was leading that defense in sacks, and he was leading that defense in pressure rate.
Absolutely. So, and one thing that I am most encouraged upon the players that with Ogbah, with Trey Flowers, with Shaq Lawson, they're getting these players right as they're hitting it would appear that they're hitting their prime. And it seems that if you're going by what they did last year compared to previous years, it seems that their development has accelerated somewhat. And Miami is catching them right at the right time, the sweet spot. And hopefully they continue to trend in that direction. But yeah, Agba and Trey Flowers as well, for all similar reasons why I select, I was talking about Agba. You're catching him 25 years old. He was considered, he was a first round pick by the Giants, and they had him at tackle. And we all know how that worked out. And you look at him, he hit rock bottom, he recalibrated and he reinvented himself, switched to a different position, and you got immediate production, very good production from that move from left tackle to left guard.
Well, you know what he is. You know what Eric Flowers is. I mean, you've heard the rumblings with Jedrick Wills, which I think are crazy about kicking him into right guard, brother. You heard, buddy, I was hearing months ago, some guys, I guess, were trying to have hot takes, and their thing was, let's kick in Wirfs in that guard. I'm like, are you crazy? And then before the combine, what was the take? Let's kick in Andrew Thomas from left tackle to left guard. So it's always, and this isn't the first time. It happens every year, right?
Right.
The thing is, Eric Flowers has now to kind of, even though it was a short tenure with the Redskins, he's kind of become the poster boy of what happens when you actually kick in, a highly touted left tackle to left guard. I mean, when you go over how he was at the left guard, he had at a left tackle, with the Giants, he had over 1,500 snaps. He had, I believe, an 84% pass block win rate, and he took 15 penalties. And then he gets kicked into guard, and he's had about 900 snaps. He's got a 92% pass block win rate, and he's only taken 5 penalties. Absolutely. So you're seeing it, you're seeing I don't think people realize, 84 to 92% the pass block win rate is massive.
Absolutely.
That is absolutely. You don't absolutely. You're getting close to a double digit increase. That is massive. So, I think I really like what we've done. I still think obviously the left tackle and the right tackle are glaring needs.
Is right tackle really that glaring though? I mean, Jesse Davis, I'm telling you, man, he might be one of those. He might be one of those players as well. The light just turns on. The light bulb just clicks on for him.
Yeah, but if we're going to get the guy that we're talking about, I can't wait for a light bulb. And that's why I've said I don't mind packaging that 18th with one of our seconds or a third next year or a pick next year and trying to get back up. Because now I think that a team like, listen to this, a team like Cleveland, they've got Conklin, right? Sure, they could use a left tackle, but now that they've got Conklin, it would probably be much easier and much cheaper to get them out of that 10th spot than it would before the deal. You know what I mean? So I think I want Wirfs or Jedrick Wills, man. That's kind of why I wanted Conklin. If the game plan long-term is Tua, that right side is automatically a priority, and we've talked about this before. It's not that high-quality left tackles are a dime a dozen, because they're not, but left tackles are far easier to find than a right tackle. A premier right tackle, let me correct myself. A premier right tackle is a lot harder to find because they're in less demand than a premier left tackle. And that's why I think when, I've been banging the table for Wirfs for how long now, brother? Way before the combine, before I jumped. I was the conductor of the hype train, bro. So I think, man, when you got a mauler like that, 6'7", bro, he's
impressive.
You can't.
He's impressive.
Oh my God, you can't. I don't like those guys. Don't come around every day, man. And I like Jedrick Wills. I don't like him as much as Wirfs. But another thing you can't buy, as much as you can't buy Wirfs' size, the camaraderie that if you draft a guy like 2 at 5 and then you move back up to get a guy like Jedrick Wills, you're getting that camaraderie, and you're also showing to Tua, this is how much we're willing to invest in you. So even if Tua doesn't work out, other quarterbacks are sitting there being like, wow, not only did they go address that blind side, they identified a guy up there that this guy has that bond, that kinship with, who's another elite right tackle, and they went and they got him because that's his guy. That to me would be like the same with if they didn't get DeAndre Hopkins, if as much as they need a tackle, if they didn't get DeAndre Hopkins, if Arizona would have turned around and got CeeDee Lamb at 8. It's the same thing. Not only are you getting a great talent, but you're getting that bond, you're getting that chemistry, you're getting that connection. And like I talk about trust with Flores and these free agents, I don't think you can put a price on that. Just like I don't think you can put a price on Wirfs' size and his actual athleticism for that size. It's unreal.
But think about this. Think about things from this perspective, okay? If Tua turns out to be the target at 5, he's going to have a red shirt year. So the requirement for investing, making a big investment at that position is not as important for this season.
Okay, so let me just play devil's advocate quick, okay? Because we can go off of that. Tua himself has already been saying, at the combine, et cetera, and I agree with you. You know my stance. I don't care whether you're Joe Burrow or Tua Tagovailoa this year. You would be, if I'm your coach, you're sitting for a year because I believe in properly grooming these guys. Getting them caught up with the pace of the NFL because, like I've said before to you many times, I don't think people realize how big of a jump that really is. And what if Tua's word turns out to be true in terms of he keeps going on about how the doctors are telling him that he's going to be ready to go day one, opening season, if need be. Now, I know we got Fitzpatrick, 110%. But, brother, what if this guy's good to go at training camp and he blows everyone away?
Well,
what if everyone's like,
I hear you. I get that, but
what if even Fitzpatrick? Because we talk about this. This is a kid who, as much as people want to deny it, Trent Dilfer has talked about this kid memorized an NFL playbook in one night. Yeah, whether it's the lead 11 or not, it's the one thing that gets bragged about this kid is his football IQ on the field just as much as off the field. So what if Fitzpatrick comes out of the chalkboard room and he comes off the field and he's like, what do you do? This kid's handing me my, what, in every facet right now. Obviously, he won't in the chalkboard because it's way too advanced, Fitzpatrick's stage right now. But, if this kid goes out and starts blowing away people in terms of his character, he looks like he's going to be a leader and a galvanizer as soon as he walks in the room. And then his on-field work and his board work in the film room and in the QB room, what do you do, man? Because we're going to have not only the media, but we're going to have fans out at OTAs and training camp. And we all know the Tua haters are going to turn into the biggest Tua believers. It's just a matter of if he stays healthy. So the one thing you don't have in the NFL is time. And patience. One thing that no one has, whether it's a fan, a coach, hopefully Flores does, and it seems that he does. Whether right or wrong, they've shown patience with Josh Rosen. So when you look at that and you step back and be like, okay, this kid's told me he could start day one. Then he goes out and he proves it. Where are we then, PM? Because I know you agree with me again. If Tua is healthy, this guy could go out and be a Pro Bowler year one.
He could.
We're not saying he will, but the skill set is there can translate to that. Obviously, there's going to be growing pains, but if you put a good offensive line, we already have weapons around him, and you go draft that running back to add to Howard, that change of pace back, who's the future, and you add in the defensive pieces we've already had that could be giving him good field position more often than not with turnovers, stalls, etc.
Absolutely.
That has the makings for a 10-6, 11-5 season.
I hear you. And in spirit, I'm definitely in agreement with you, but man, I just would rather him, me personally, this is the approach that I would take in as far as this particular topic. Okay. I don't care how Tua blows it up, how phenomenal he looks. And I think that's a strong possibility. If he is healthy, I think he is going to wow. I can't wait to hear the beat writers writing stories about him in OTAs and in training camp. I can't wait. But considering the nature of the injury that he sustained with his hip, I'm going to take a very, very slow. I'm going to give him every opportunity to be 150% healthy. So I know it's tempting, but it goes back to my faith in what we have in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, I can see where now if Ryan Fitzpatrick's, if he reverts back to Ryan Fitztragic, then we got a situation here. Then we have a situation. Okay. But I personally think Jesse Davis is more than serviceable. And that's really all you have to be. You don't necessarily have to be Jack Conklin or some of these dominant right tackles in the league. Just don't get your quarterback killed. Just be serviceable. And he's serviceable in the run game. And again, he's trending up. Last 6-7 games of the season, we didn't hear Jesse Davis's name mentioned in a negative light, which is excellent. So I think Jesse Davis is more than certain. I think at this point now things could change dramatically here in the next couple of days. But my approach to the offensive line right now, okay, our second first round pick at 18, that will be a target. As we're sitting here today, will be a left tackle. I'm going to address that with the 18th pick, no matter what. So left guard is already solidified. We signed our center. I told you, Gabe Jackson quietly is still on the trade block. But I think ultimately Oakland releases him. And again, as we're moving forward, we're going to see quality veteran.
We should be making a run for John Klein, who the Vikings just released.
And look
right guard, man.
And look at the guard that San Francisco just released as well. His name is escaping me right now. I forget his name, but he gave them quality play last year as well. At this point, if now that Joe Tooney is not an option, the Joe Tooneys of the world, the Jack Conklins of the world are not an option. Me personally, this is what I would do. I would wait and see what acorns fall off different trees. And if they're solid enough, based on what they did last year and they're not too expensive, I think Miami's approach moving forward now things could change dramatically, but I think moving forward, they should be looking for a bridge player at right guard, and I would leave Jesse Davis at right tackle. That's what I would do. And I would be ecstatic if that right guard came, if it was Gabe, if some way we were able to secure Gabe Jackson's services by a trade or even if Oakland cuts him. I would be more than happy, more than confident moving forward.
I mean, because like right now, how I would build our offensive line, it would probably be Davenport, Flowers, Karras, Isadora, and then Davis. So, I mean,
and also
by the sounds of it, you're not comfortable with Isadora moving forward. Neither am I.
No, not at all. I've been
banging the table for who I think we could get in the fourth.
Now Michael Dieter
from Oregon, just slide him right in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also, we talked about on previous streams about how Michael Dieter. I would love to see how I would love to start cross training him at center. Mm-hmm. But Michael Dieter he's a solid option for the right tackle position.
But
not right tackle. I'm sorry, right guard. Right guard.
Look when you look at Dieter, when you look at Davis, right? When you look at Karras, when you look at Flowers, what's the one thing that they all have in common? And it seems that this team is trending towards. Karras can play guard as well as center.
Yeah, versatility.
Flowers can play guard as well as tackle. Right. Davis can play guard as well as center. Same with
exactly.
So it just seems like that's what they're trying to build. And this is what I talked about. A reason why I love Graham Glasgow, and I'm surprised they didn't throw the bag at him, was he can play guard or center, and he can play both really efficiently. So that's why I was kind of surprised by that. But it seems pretty obvious that interior is going to be addressed in the first 4 rounds. Because we've talked about this too, if we want to get our center for the future, because we don't see Karras as a future guy, whether it's a Cesar Ruiz from Michigan, whether it's a guy who I like, Matt Hennessy from Temple, whether it's Tyler Biadasz from Wisconsin, or whether it's another guy like Lloyd Cushenberry from LSU. The problem is, 5, 18, 26, 39, 56, 70, and then we don't pick till I believe it's 141. From 70. So you're going to have to take, where you probably feel more comfortable taking, a Biadasz or a Hennessy, probably more around 100. If Ruiz and Cushenberry are gone at 70, one might be there, but they both might not, then you might have to reach on one of those guys at 70. Because I can tell you right now, one of the top 4 centers will not be there at 141. I'm telling you right now.
I agree.
So, and then what does that turn into? Because I've thought about this. I thought about this. Okay, yeah. So follow along with me here. Tell me what you think. So 5th, we're probably going to go quarterback. 18th, whether it's to move up or stay there, it's probably going to be that pick for a tackle. 26 and 39. I see as interchangeable between running back and safety, depending on who's on the board. So we know J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, and then when you go to safety, Antoine Winfield, Ashton Davis. I think they're going to get 2 of those 4 guys between 26th and that 39th pick, right? So now we go to 56, and let's keep looking at the line we're at, right? Let's say we got a left tackle because we weren't able to move up for Wirfs or Jedrick Wills, so we got a left tackle. So now your boy Davis is at right tackle. We've got our center for the future. We don't have that right guard yet, really. And we're now sitting at 56. We got 56, 70, and then 141. What are you doing there?
At that point, well, again, this is all we have to see how the board shapes up and we have to see what's available, what's not available. We just have to see how the board shapes up. But with that being said, if we're sitting at 56 and we still haven't addressed right guard, I'm looking for that bridge player. I'm accelerating I'm looking at the NFL landscape for that bridge player, right guard. I'm bringing a veteran at that point. I'm not reaching for a right guard from that point. From that point on, I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this with the anticipation of them starting day one. Now you might get a player that has, he has value, and you might want to select him and bring him along in the developmental process. I get that, but picking beyond at that point and beyond, how likely is that player going to come in and be a day one starter for you? You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking for a bridge option at that point. But that's just me. So, but things can change. We'll see.
It's going to be, really interesting to see how this unfolds, because we are really kind of, if they get Tua and he's ready to go, even if they get Herbert and he's ready to go, even if they get Love and they deem him ready to go, we're putting ourselves in a position where that offensive line is all of a sudden going to become a top priority, and you could come out with potentially 2 to 3 rookie starters on your offensive line from this draft.
Yeah, but I look at it like this. Tackle is, in my opinion, just based on history. It seems to me that the interior position on offensive line is harder to translate immediately as opposed to tackle.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that would be too, as long as you don't have two, if you don't have a rookie at the left side and right side, I ideally, you'd rather have a rookie on one side and a veteran on the other. But so I don't necessarily anticipate that being an issue, especially at the left tackle position. So again, that's another reason why I'm targeting a bridge player at the right guard position. If Jesse Davis, if we don't, you know, acquire another player to play right tackle, that's another reason why. Because veteran experience, bro, is invaluable in the NFL. So, so yeah, I don't anticipate that being a problem if we have to wind up with a left tackle or a.
See, but this is why another reason why I don't. First of all, I kind of think it's harder to play tackle in terms of with the speed that are coming from these edge guys. They get locked out in open space, and a lot of these guys can just get wrapped up and finished and left on an island out there by the speed. But that's neither here nor there. My thing with taking a left tackle at 18, bro, and here's my thing. If we want that to be a premier tackle, right, a left tackle at 18, in 5 years, if we got Tua Tagovailoa and he's healthy, are we really going to be paying a premier left tackle when the blind side is the right?
Well, I don't think I necessarily buy into that, that theory. No matter who you have out there, they have to block. They have to keep your quarterback clean. Whether it's left tackle, right guard, left guard, center, they all have to block. So now, in terms of paying them, a left-handed quarterback, which one do you place more value on, a right tackle or a left tackle? I mean, I don't.
Because I look at it as the right tackle would be my premier tackle, and my left tackle at best, and ideally, I would want a solid guy, not a premier guy. Right. That's where I'd want that 8. I would want that 8, 8 and a quarter, 8 and a half. 8 and a half might get pricey, so keep around 8. And then I'm okay with having that 9 guy on the right side that I'm just throwing the money out. That's fine.
I hear you. But if you have if you have a player on the left side, no matter whether the quarterback is left, if he's playing at a Pro Bowl level, I mean, you want to keep as many of those players in your program as possible. So it just all depends on the individual performance of that player, as far as whether or not I'm willing to pay him or not. You know what I'm saying? So I'm
alluding to this because look at the situation the Cowboys are in, and a lot of people bring it into how much they paid their offensive line, right? And albeit they keep restructuring every year. But, me and you have talked about this. We both eventually believe it's going to get to a point where they're going to have to get rid of 1, possibly 2, to really actually make them legitimately get over the hump. So,
well, again, we mentioned this before. I'm more than confident that our staff, Flores in particular, he'll be 2 or 3 steps ahead of that scenario. I don't anticipate us being in a situation like. If you're just going by, if he is adopting any of the philosophies of Bill Belichick and he's implementing those into what we're doing here in Miami, that scenario that's been transpiring last year and it's transpired this year with the Dallas Cowboys, that won't be an issue. So problem is, I just think they mismanaged, in my opinion, the Dallas Cowboys. They just mismanaged their situation. It's just you don't pay a running back. I don't care unless it's Barry Sanders or Bo Jackson or, Marshall.
Christian McCaffrey.
No disrespect to Ezekiel Elliott, but that's where their problems. That's the origin of their problems right there. That contract, in my estimation. So, but I don't anticipate that scenario, being an issue in Miami. I really don't.
So let's go back to the draft. Let's stay on the draft, I guess, a little bit. The rumblings we've been hearing, I mean, I've talked about it, about how Todd McShay has gone on to multiple national platforms and always cited sources, and he's even gone as far as saying sources he trusts a lot inside of our organization. Armando has kind of alluded to it. I mean, Omar Kelly has alluded to it, but he's always said it's not going to happen. But Armando just came out with that report not too long ago. Was it last night or the night before? About us taking another serious run at possibly moving up to 1 for Joe Burrow. And, I've said before, I forget where I saw this, but I mean, I've mentioned on another I think I mentioned on one of our other panels that, the belief that I heard weeks ago was they don't think Cincinnati's closed for business until that draft card is turned in. We've talked about when you talk about the polished quarterbacks in this, Herbert and Love, they're developmental guys, whether it's a year or two, they're projects. Okay? They're not ready to go day one. But when you talk about guys, and we don't agree with starting guys day one, but when you talk about guys who are polished enough to go day one, when you look at accuracy, ball placement, anticipation, mechanics, how they use their eyes, Tua and Joe Burrow leap off the page at you. So do you think there is fire behind the smoke, or do you think it is just simply them waving smoke into the air to keep people off moving Tua, who, again, we agree after how this landscape is shaped out after free agency, it looks like the Chargers are the threat. Now, what I've always known in terms of that situation is they're really high on Herbert. But I know since the combine, there are people in that circle that have claimed that narrative has changed to Jordan Love, to the point where he's now getting mocked to the Chargers, to the point where McShay put $5,000 on the fact that Love will go first before Herbert. So what do you think in terms of the whole Burrow Tua thing? Because here's my thing. I think the Burrow thing is Stephen Ross's yearly infatuation with one of the quarterbacks out there. I don't necessarily know if it totally represents Flores and Greer, because as far as I know, Greer has been absolutely in love with Tua Tagovailoa since 2018, since won the national championship, and that has not been a secret since that draft where that came out. So we're now about to be 2 years removed from the fact. Yeah, the ankle surgeries don't really matter. They're a moot point when you actually look into the surgery. He's got Terminator ankles now. He's got better ankles than me and EMs combined as we stand here. The hip is the situation. But when you look at the player evaluation of Tua Tagovailoa, when you look at the way he can – his eye manipulation abilities, his way to corners and safeties with his eyes alone makes him translatable to the next level. I've talked about it before. You got a guy who's second in the, a lot of people always come out here and they're like, oh, but he's got Judy, he's got Ruggs, he's got Waddle, he's got Devontae Smith, et cetera, et cetera. And I get that. There's no denying they're talented. But, if you're going to use that, use the same on Joe Burrow. And second of all, what I'm going to say to you is, this man, and you've heard this stat before, and I know you love the stat. You've heard me throw it out there. This man was second in the nation in accuracy plus throws in tight windows. Now, for those of you who are watching for the first time, that means numbers, shoulder for back shoulder throws, or in stride, perfectly in stride. Those are the most accurate areas when you break down the analytics and you bunch them. That's the most accurate bunching of tight window throws you can throw at analytics. And he's number 2 in the nation.
Immediate. That's translatable to the NFL.
Yeah, that shows you at the end of the day, and where I was going with that, it doesn't matter who's on the other end of that ball.
Exactly.
It's put in a position where only that guy can make the catch in a tight window. And you know what? Me and Ian, I've talked about this plenty of times. There's big arm quarterbacks we love, okay? We love Herbert's skill set in terms of his prototypical size. I lean a bit more towards I see a higher bust potential in him than EM does, but we both 110% agree on his arm strength. He needs to work on the arm talent, but the arm strength is elite. The athleticism is elite. The prototypical size is elite. And let's forget about breaking people down to mechanics. Mechanically today, as I sit here, I look at Tua mechanically today because we don't know where Herbert's going to fall and who's going to work on him. Mechanically today, this is the guy who could still be going if he's healthy beyond 35 because his mechanics are already at such an evolved stage and he's only 22.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
what do you think about the smoke between Burrow and Tua? And what do you think about what I just said in terms of right now his skill set is not translatable, but it is a solid foundation for a guy who can play beyond 35 if he's healthy?
You know, as we sit here today, okay, I think there's a high level of interest with Joe Burrow, and let's be clear, there should be. Okay, we have gone on. Everybody knows how we feel about Tua, but you can't discount the season number one that Joe Burrow had and his skill set. I mean, the kid has. I mean, his tape is breathtaking at times. Maybe not as consistently breathtaking as Tua Tagovailoa's is.
Especially over the middle. Don't you notice over the middle is
exactly right is where where it's a little cloudy.
Well, what's crazy is
overall,
I got to stop you there just so you can continue on. But what's crazy is when you break down the film on Joe Burrow, when you get into the slant routes, which is one of the most used routes in the NFL, when you get to the next level, they're not even close. Like Joe Burrow can throw a very nice slant, but when you get in terms of consistent slants, Tua is dime, whereas Joe Burrow is dime, receiver has to hold up, dime. This is the receiver behind or ahead of him. You know what I mean?
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And again, it's not as consistent as, in my opinion, as Tua Tagovailoa, but overall, I can see and teams should have a high level of interest in Joe Burrow. But in terms of the smoke factor, I'm gonna there's a lot of conversation going on about Joe Burrow and the Miami Dolphins. You can't just ignore it. It shouldn't be ignored. But I'm gonna maintain my consistency on people that I follow in the chatter that I've been consistently hearing for a year now. And even up until 3 days ago, that if Tua Tagovailoa is sitting on the board at 5, Tua is, and Tua will be the target at 5. But I just don't think Miami, since he injured his hip, I don't think Miami is as eager to invest major capital to jump from 5 to in a position to where they think they can 100% secure his draft status. Mm-hmm. That's where it differs. I think they love Tua. I think Tua is still the target. But since he got hurt, I just think they're just not willing to mortgage much to get him. And that's where this is the explanation for these leaks and these stories coming out about Miami having a high level interest in doing their due diligence on these other 2 prospects with Justin Herbert and Jordan Love. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the safest approach. I've said this we talked about this on TD Stream. I'm not mortgaging 3 first-round picks for anybody in any draft in any year. That's not good business in my opinion. Yeah. So again, if it's within reason, if Detroit, once free agency is done and teams in Detroit have started to put, well, it's already started, but they're starting to put all the pieces of their team together and making a projection on what their team is going to look like opening day. And they think that they can, they might entertain a trade and slide back to 5, and they think they can secure the player that they want still sitting there at 5, and then their asking price comes down. I think Miami will definitely 100% entertain that as long as it's within reason. Now, ideally, you don't want to give up any capital. But if it was me, I'm calling everybody's bluff. I'm calling Detroit's bluff. I'm calling the Chargers' bluff. Everyone's bluff as far as boxing us in a situation where we have to give up, additional assets to move up and secure Tua. No, as we're sitting here today, I'm calling everybody's bluff.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, let's call Joe Burrow basically a lock to Cincinnati as far as we know. As much as much as we knock on the door, from what I've heard, and from people around the organization, what we've seen them say is the conversation starts at least 3 first-round picks from this year, and that's not a conversation I'm really willing to have right now in terms of what we need to add and how we need to build the offense. And then and it's not a healthy Tua Tagovailoa, so I'm not going to entertain that. So when you go beyond that, and let's look at the next 3 picks, Chase Young. I mean, I don't believe the Tua thing at all.
No, not at all.
I'm pretty sure because of Snyder's hand in that situation, and I don't care what anyone tells me in terms of, he might have given Rivera that's fine and dandy, he might have, but Haskins was trending upwards after he gave his offensive line an earful, and they started winning at the end of the year.
And also, you see the articles that have surfaced about him being, just blown away with Chase Young.
Yeah. I think we look at Rivera, right? If I'm wrong, but Julius Peppers and Rivera didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're the same player, but didn't Rivera?
Right.
Rivera made that pick, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I think, and Rivera's a defensive-minded guy, and
exactly.
I really think when I look at how they're drafting already before Chase Young, to me they look like the perfect team to follow how the 49ers drafted. Because they've already got the pieces in the place on the trench already.
I agree. Actually, it was John Fox that made that selection.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
But he carried over to Rivera. He was on. Yeah. He was the coach, so.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, absolutely, they should. I mean, and I think they're going to follow that blueprint. If you look at, scheme-wise, very similar philosophies from what they're doing in San Francisco to what traditionally Ron Rivera has implemented in his defenses.
Exactly.
So he's a defensive guy. Chase Young just makes, for that team, he just makes perfect, he just makes perfect sense.
Okay, and then let's go to number 3. Now we're at the 3. I've been banging the table again for months, not just recently, for months, about the Slay thing and who ended up being right. Today they traded Darius Slay to the Philadelphia Eagles, and I've been telling people for months that this is coming down the pipeline and that they're walking Okudah. I didn't expect them to go and get Trufant, but at the end of the day, I still think it's Jeff Okudah or Isaiah Simmons with that 3rd pick. I don't think it's Tagovailoa because Matt Stafford right now with that offense and the seat that Patricia is currently sitting on that's quite hot, Matt Stafford gives you the best, Matt Stafford in that offense and what you have right now gives you the best chance and I guess the more assurance of being potentially a playoff contender from day one because before he got hurt, I mean, they were killing it, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, and then we move off that and, even if Isaiah Simmons goes there, now I'd see Okudah start to fall. Because I do believe that the Giants are either going to take – they made their investment. They went and got Daniel Jones, and now they got to put money in the bank. They got to go get their tackle. And I think it's going to be either that tackle or I think it's – what I've been hearing is if Isaiah Simmons is there at 4, they're going to skip tackle and go Isaiah Simmons which leads me to believe that because of the Trufant, Simmons might be more in play than Okudah was, but I guess I'll stay consistent and stay with Okudah. So do we even need to trade? Is it I remember a couple streams ago, when the rumors were going on and, TD asked me how worried I am. And this is before free agency, brother. Remember I said, and I even told you on the phone, I said, you know what? I'm starting to get the belief that Tua's going to be there at 5.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I said I'm calling everyone's bluff. I'm calling why panic? Okay, I get a month ago when this whole free agency was so much up in the air. There was nothing, and we said this on TV stream. Free agency is gonna clear up a lot of the uncertainty on many teams. So what has transpired this week? All teams started to put their pieces of their team and are projecting what their team is going to look like for opening day. Look at how everything's changed now. The conversation has changed. You know what I mean? So I think if there is a threat, a quote unquote threat, it would be the Chargers, based on they're picking at 6, but they don't have the capital to move up. They don't have the assets. Well, I'm not going to say if they're willing to mortgage their entire draft, or their pick this year, their second round pick, their third round pick, their first next. If they're willing to do that, hey, more power to you. But I just don't think, again, Anthony Lynn, he's in a similar situation in terms of his security, his status, as Matt Patricia is. Mm-hmm. So I just don't anticipate them moving up for a player that you're going to have to, not necessarily have to, but more likely he will be redshirted for an entire year. They are in win now mode anyway, just based on how the roster is constructed. They're in win now mode.
And that's another thing, they added Trey Turner, and then they went out and added Balaga.
Yep.
To me, that screams Herbert.
Absolutely, I agree.
That screams Herbert.
I agree.
That doesn't scream Tua. That screams. I agree with you. That screams that, hey, we're just gonna plop our guy in there that's gonna start from day one. And me and you have talked about earlier in this stream about how Tua is talking about how he could be good to go day one, but what you say and what's the reality are two different things.
Exactly.
So again, like as much as we were putting out the hypothetical there earlier, that what if he is ready to go day one? He improves he shows everyone up on the field. He shows pretty good. He shows up pretty well in the QB room. What do? I really still think a lot of teams are hesitant. Yeah,
oh yeah, and the smart play is to sit to it regardless. I don't care what it says.
And here's the thing. Yeah, if I tell you the Dolphins are going into the season with Fitzpatrick as a starter, and they just drafted Tua, or the Chargers are going into the season with Tyrod Taylor, and they just drafted Tua, which situation makes you cringe more in terms of, Tua's probably starting? It's like if Tyrod Taylor is starting, you can basically place your bets on it's not going to be a matter of if, it's going to be
a matter of time. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I just, again, I think Herbert would be, he seems more likely the target for San Diego. I don't anticipate them jumping us and trying to select Tua. Mm-hmm. A healthy Tua maybe, but no, I just don't see it. I would be shocked if that come draft day, that scenario unfolds. I would be shocked, but I just don't think so. And again, if they're willing to mortgage that much, more power to them. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. I love me some Tua talking about Loa. We all know that. Tua, if you listen, homie, we ride with you, baby. We ride with you. It's almost that time. Almost that time, homie. But I'm just not doing that. I'm sorry. I'm just not doing it.
A little hype up for Tua there. I mean,
yes, sir.
It's crazy because the Chargers, they kind of remind you of the Bills in terms of they're just going to throw their quarterback in there. They're not going to work. They're not going to really have time. We talk about time, not having patience because you want to get going. So it looks like they're just going to if they were to get Herbert, we all could pretty much agree that he's probably going to be the day one starter. He's going to beat out Tyrod Taylor just on just based on feeling alone. Yeah, talent alone. You're going to be like, wow. You know what I mean? So my thing is that could we talked about Josh Allen. We talked about how some of the same issues that plagued him in college still plague him now because they didn't take the time to properly groom him, fix on his mechanics, that in turn would fix on his accuracy issues. And if I'm going to see Herbert out here doing the front arm swim while he's throwing a ball, his eyes shifting right and left and his head moving, and if I'm going to see, flat-footed, you can throw 62 yards flat-footed with no one around. But if I'm going to see you flat-footed in the pocket like you sometimes how you tend to go, Yeah, they're going to be a playoff team for sure, but I don't see – see, it's a thing. We talk about ceilings, right? And I talk about Love. For him to reach his ceiling, I think it's easier. I think you just have to work on his decision making because he came from a first read offense and with Matt Wells that he had a lot of success in. And he lost 9 starters, lost his head coach, Matt Wells at Texas Tech, lost his offensive coordinator last year. Totally different, a scheme that basically, whether it was schematically or whether it was because the talent couldn't create separations, you were constantly forced to go to your second, third progressions. And it got to a point where if Love was seeing even a little bit of separation because of how bad his receivers was, he was throwing the ball, right? Like I've gone over, you can account for 10 of his 17 interceptions you can basically place were not on him. But when you go into it, my thing with Herbert is I feel like he would be another Josh Allen in terms of he's going to be good. You're going to win with them. But those same issues, if you don't work on them, are going to plague him for the foreseeable future. And he could be a Tannehill where by year 7, year 8, you see him starting to get it because it's been nothing but a in-game growth process, not a grooming growth process. Sit, watch, see how a veteran like Fitzpatrick does it, be under his tutelage in the room, in the quarterback room and in the film room, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think about that?
I look at it. Okay, we talked about this before. Okay, when coaches, what they deem as most valuable are obviously the physical aspects of their game, okay? Mm-hmm. And we talked about this before about how they're going to, from a, teaching perspective, every quarterback is going to go through that process. Every coach when they are selected, whatever team, whoever that coach is, they're going to basically strip their entire game down to the bare minimum, and they're going to reconstruct as they see fit. So, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, bro. What was your question again? What was the question?
My question was basically, what do you think?
I had a flashback into throwing a bomb to Devontae Parker. My bad. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So basically, my question was, what do you think about Herbert potentially going to a team like the Chargers, who's kind of built like the Bills with Josh Allen?
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to really worry about developing and grooming and fixing your mechanics and tearing you down and building you back up because your physical traits, your arm strength, your athleticism, your size, they can help me win now as opposed to sitting you on the bench.
Well, I think that, they're going to go through that process,
And let me just say, the reason why I asked this is because with Fitzpatrick, going back to what I said, with Fitzpatrick, we're a better situation for any of these quarterbacks. Whereas you're going to a guy with Tyrod Taylor, like we said, you're probably starting. So that's where I'm going with this. But anyways, continue.
Bro. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother.
Hang on one second. Hang on.
And that is kind of where I'm going with this. I think when you look at the situation, to learn, to be groomed, to be developed, I think our situation is a little more ideal than San Diego, even though San Diego, you could say, has more pieces right now. But those more pieces right now would put pressure on that quarterback to start sooner rather than later. And next thing you know, you got a guy who those fundamental flaws, you're not taking your time to work them out of his game. Instead, you're letting the game try and work them out. And I think that's in terms of long-term developmental, that's a finicky situation.
Sorry about that, bro. My bad, homie.
No worries.
But
we've only got about 5 minutes, by the way. So
okay, the Josh Allen comparison is fair, but I just think it boils down to the individual player. I mean, if Herbert, no matter who it is, Herbert, Love, Tua, Burrow, previous quarterbacks in the past, it just boils down to each individual player. And that's where, in essence, the crapshoot aspect of the draft comes into play. We're not fortune tellers. We don't know what's coming year 3, year 4, year 5. It just depends on that player. And you select your player according to your evaluation you have on him. Every coach has things they can live with and things that they not so much they can live with, and you just have to roll the dice, man, and implement your program, implement your things that you deem the most important, and you just ride with it. But Herbert, really though, and we've talked about this before, based off even Jordan Love as well, but Herbert, because I feel he's more of an imposing athlete than every other quarterback in this draft from an arm standpoint as well as his mobility. He's got elite traits that you can win with if you have enough around him. Like a Josh Allen, he's very similar to him, and he's in a situation. Again, we mentioned this earlier. They are in win ammo. Their roster, the way it's constructed, I mean, it's a top 10 roster all day. So they have additions that they have to make just like anyone else. But Herbert going into a situation like that, that might be ideal for him. That might be the best situation for him, I think, to be honest with you. So he doesn't have that, Tyrod. I mean, what kind of threat is really Tyrod Taylor to anybody, really, to be honest with you? So, yeah. But again, it just depends on that player, man. If they put that work in, if they put their head down, like a Tom Brady or Drew Brees, whomever, you could throw, Russell Wilson, they will have success. But again, you gotta put the work in, and that applies to anyone at any position. So we'll see.
I agree. I just realized an hour and 12 minutes in, I wasn't wearing headphones, and I'm probably getting feedback on the mic from you. But that's okay. I guess, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think, like I said, I think this is a better situation for a guy to be groomed and developed because, Fitzpatrick proved last year he can legitimately finish the season out, whereas I don't think you're going to finish the season out with a Tyrod Taylor, or when you go over to Cincinnati, a Ryan Finley. I don't think that's feasible. But
I agree.
We've been going here for almost an hour and 15 minutes. This is technically episode 1 of Phinside The NFL. And we just wanted to have a discussion. We wanted to put one of our many famous talks that we talk about kind of out there and record it for people to come back and watch. I mean, you can find our feelings on free agency on multiple platforms, whether it's Twitter or on TD Fins Talk. You can find it there. But yeah, this is going to be a thing moving forward, guys. Me and EM, we are in agreement in a lot of things when it comes to football fundamentals, the nuances of the game, et cetera, et cetera. And, I think we've got a lot of plans for this channel. It's not just going to be this. We're going to do strictly topic videos. We got already working on some interviews lined up. We're going to do player evaluations eventually. So we want to stand out. We want to do some stuff that's different than what every other Dolphins content creator is doing right now in terms of on YouTube. So you're still going to be able to find us on TD Fins Talk for sure. But this is the beginning
shout out to the homie. Shout out to the homie TD. Ball game.
For sure. I mean, if it wasn't for TD, in that platform, not only would we not even know each other, but this wouldn't have popped into our head. And this has been something that, I've been thinking about, and I ran it by EM, and he was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea." We started kind of going back and forth with what we wanted to do with it, and the reason why it's called Phinside the NFL is because we're not just going to cover the Dolphins. We want to talk about the NFL landscape. Like you saw us talk about the Chargers a bit. You saw us talk about other teams and where they were going, and that's going to be a continuing theme. Like obviously, it's going to be Miami Dolphins centric, but we're not going to forget that there's another, 31 teams out there, and we're going to cover, big deals. I mean, we talked about the Darius Slay move today, and that's something that I've been talking about for a while on the other platform, and I really like where this is headed, EM. I think we're going to do something special with this channel, and I think people are really going to like. And then some of them might be controversial already by some of our player evaluations without making videos of them. But so far, we've been pretty right. I mean, when you go to the combine, when you go to take the combine, a lot of those players that performed well, it was either me or EM banging the table for, Josh Rosen, come out here and prove us wrong. I mean, we've been pretty right about that.
Yeah. We didn't talk. Speaking of Josh Rosen, we didn't talk about the whispers that are surrounding Josh Rosen right now. Ooh, maybe in episode 2.
Hey,
maybe.
Brother, you know what? If you're around tonight, I can get another thumbnail drawn up, and we can talk about that if you want. It's up to you. So we can make another little quick whenever episode out of that. I mean, not going to be long because that'll be 15 minutes at most. So basically the 10-year career with the Dolphins.
Very good.
So
very good.
Anything you want to say before we sign out here?
No, man, just looking forward to this, to establishing this platform and taking this platform to new heights. And at the end of the day, like Reason you touched on, a few moments ago, we just want to bring, our vision for this platform is to bring a heightened level of education as far as our team first and the NFL as well. The game, a heightened level of education of the game. Bring each individual's knowledge base to add another layer of depth to the knowledge base in essence. So I'm looking forward to, what the future holds, man. And again, man, I couldn't be more ecstatic with the moves that our team has made this week, and looking forward to what comes next. And man, we can just get this situation, what's going on in the world right now, if we can just get that under control. And man, I just want to get back to business as usual. Football will be here sooner than we think. And man, just looking forward to everything.
I agree, and I think that's key too. I think people need to realize, and they've heard our evaluations of other players, whether it's a good evaluation, that doesn't mean we're jocking the player. Whether it's a bad evaluation, that doesn't mean we're hitting the player. That just means we're telling you guys and we're informing you guys of what our eyes are seeing and telling us, and then when we add our knowledge of the schematics and like we always talk about the nuances of the game into that, that's where we get our evaluations from. And
absolutely.
People, I really want you to understand, this isn't personal. You know what I mean? This is not personal. This is
personal.
EM played the game. EM played the game. I played the game. EM's turned into a student of the game in terms of film, as have I. And all we're doing is trying to bunch that together, roll it into something nice, like a nice Play-Doh statue, and put it out on display for you guys. And that's it. So I hope you all enjoyed the first episode. We're going to be back. We're going to be back very soon, sooner than you think. And I just want to say, fins up, baby. That's all we got to say today.
Fins up all day, every day. All day, every day.